Welcome to Headline News. This is Maria Han. New COVID-19 vaccines being promoted amid rising concerns. After a global outbreak of the Chinese Communist Party virus, the virus has mutated in some countries. People are setting their hopes on the vaccines. Several countries claim to have developed a vaccine and have begun to distribute them. Currently, there are ongoing discussions about whether people should get vaccinated and whether vaccination works. There are also growing doubts and concerns about the vaccines. Fox News host Tucker Carlson's views on vaccination may resonate with many people. Now, one vaccine is being distributed and a second was approved for emergency use Friday. We should be rejoicing about this, yet many Americans are reluctant to take the vaccine. Why? Well, it's not all superstition. He said, "There are rational reasons to be skeptical. There's never in history been a successful vaccine for any variety of the coronavirus. The last one that scientists developed for SARS proved too dangerous to bring to market, nor has any vaccine ever been developed as quickly as this one. The only attempt that came close was the mumps vaccine back in 1967, and that took 4 years. This took fewer than 12 months. The authorities have assured us that this vaccine is completely safe, which we would like to believe. At the same time, it is also in our best interest to doubt the safety of the vaccine until we are comfortable." You may have seen the video of the nurse who fainted after receiving the vaccine, or the press conference in Texas where a medical worker pretended to be vaccinated in front of the camera and had a needle in his arm, but it was posed. The hospital admitted it was posed without explaining why it was done, so it's only natural that people have questions. Wanting to know the answer is not the same as believing in conspiracy theories. The hasty development and introduction of the vaccines are not the only reason why people are reluctant to get them. People's fears go far beyond that, worrying not only about the vaccine itself, but also about the moral degradation of the people responsible for developing the vaccines. Epoch Times reporter Joshua Phillip engaged in an exclusive interview with attorney Lin Wood. Lin Wood asked the audiences, "When COVID-19 came out, what did we hear?" He continued, "A brave doctor that I represent, Simone Gold, frontline doctors, they had a press conference in Washington, D.C. I believe it was on the steps of the Supreme Court. And they told you hydroxychloroquine will treat this. It's been used for malaria for decades. It's inexpensive. I think it's like $20. You take 200 milligrams a day with 50 milligrams of zinc. If you've got it, you take an antibiotic called a Z-Pack. You'll be well in 3 or 4 days." What happened to Dr. Gold? She was censored. Everything about hydroxychloroquine got taken off the internet. Social media censored her and the other doctors. Why? Why would they take legitimate, experienced medical doctors and refuse to let the public hear what they have to say? Let's have an exchange of ideas. Let's make our own decision on who we believe and who we don't believe. But they wanted to only give you one side, that there was no acceptable remedy for COVID-19, so they could rush through the emergency, work on a vaccine. Well, now we got the vaccines, don't we? Pfizer's got one, Bill Gates, Moderna. Don't ever take that. I wouldn't touch anything Bill Gates was around, and I wouldn't touch it if he was within a missile range of it. Look at what he wants in the world, depopulation. But we've got Moderna, and we've got Pfizer, and then what do we learn from the FDA? Hydroxychloroquine works. Now they come out and they say, take hydroxychloroquine. When did that change? Truth doesn't change. Many have turned their attention to the world's dark power, the deep state, and many religious figures, including prominent American archbishops, have warned that the deep state's global plan, the Great Reset, is underway. They want to conquer all of humanity and use the pandemic to control the world. The social media platforms, which are controlled by high-tech companies, are now cooperating to control public opinion on the virus. Fox News host Tucker Carlson said, Twitter has announced a new policy to censor any unauthorized inquiries about the vaccine. Among other things, Twitter is censoring any claim that this vaccine might be used to control populations. And not just Twitter, Facebook is also following suit. Twitter adds warning messages while Facebook deletes posts. Carlson said Mark Zuckerberg was a tech tycoon and has now become a professional marketer. Mark Zuckerberg's job is to make you want to get this vaccine like a cold beer on a hot day. Around the world, hydroxychloroquine has been subjected to an unprecedented crackdown. Twitter suspended Dr. Vladimir Zelenko's account, who was the founder of hydroxychloroquine treatment. The world's second-largest hydroxychloroquine plant exploded in Taiwan. The pharmaceutical factory went on fire after the explosion. Late last year, the police confirmed the murder of a billionaire couple who introduced hydroxychloroquine in Toronto. Questions are being raised among the public. Is the pharmaceutical world also controlled by the deep state? Do all of these injustices or tragedies relate to the big pharmaceutical companies? Human immunity removed from WHO website? On the other hand, the US website Gateway Pundit published an article on December 24th exposing the fact that the WHO is politically manipulated to change the scientific definition of herd immunity. The article is entitled, "They're Lying to You. WHO Deletes Naturally Acquired Immunity" from their website. Jeffrey Tucker is editorial director of the American Institute for Economic Research. He speaks extensively on topics such as economics, technology, social philosophy, and culture. In his article, Mr. Tucker briefly discusses the basic virology-immunology issues of the human body's natural immunity to viruses. Even the New York Times realized that the human body has a strong natural immunity to the Wuhan virus, the Chinese Communist Party virus. However, the WHO suddenly changed the definition of herd immunity, a core concept of immunology. Mr. Tucker noted that on June 9, 2020, the WHO website had written, "Herd immunity is the indirect protection from an infectious disease that happens when a population is immune either through vaccination or immunity developed through previous infection." This means that even people who haven't been infected or in whom an infection hasn't triggered an immune response, they are protected because people around them who are immune can act as buffers between them and an infected person. However, on November 13, 2020, the definition of herd immunity on the website changed to, "Herd immunity is a concept used for vaccination, in which a population can be protected from a certain virus if a threshold of vaccination is reached." Mr. Tucker commented on this change, "Somehow pretends as if human beings do not have immune systems at all, but rather rely entirely on big pharma to inject things into our blood." Mr. Tucker continued, "What this note at the World Health Organization has done is deleted what amounts to the entire million-year history of humankind in its delicate dance with pathogens. You could only gather from this that all of us are nothing but blank and unimprovable slates on which the pharmaceutical industry writes its signature." Mr. Tucker concluded that the WHO has succumbed to political pressure to change the definition of herd immunity that has been in place for the last century. The science has not changed, only the politics have. And that is precisely why it is so dangerous and deadly to subject virus management to the forces of politics. Eventually, the science too bends to the duplicitous character of the political industry. When the existing textbooks that students use in college contradict the latest official pronouncements from the authorities during a crisis in which the ruling class is clearly attempting to seize permanent power, we've got a problem. Powell's formal appointment as special counsel blocked. In a December 23rd interview with Zenger News, attorney Sidney Powell revealed that senior White House aides prevented her from meeting with President Trump at the White House and from being formally appointed as a special counsel to investigate U.S. election fraud. On the evening of December 18th, President Trump met with Powell, former National Security Advisor General Flynn, and several advisors from his camp in the Oval Office of the White House to discuss how to address the serious fraud in the U.S. 2020 election. The appointment of Powell as a special counsel to investigate election fraud was also discussed at the meeting. Powell told Zenger that Trump verbally appointed her as special counsel at the time, but that she is currently unable to submit documents to make the verbal appointment official because her appointment has been blocked by senior White House aides. She said that she didn't receive a formal appointment because after Friday night, the president's appointment was blocked or withdrawn. When asked if there was deliberate interference, Powell said, "I've been blocked from speaking to or communicating with the president since I left the Oval Office on Friday night." Powell explained that her verbal appointment was not like Robert Mueller type of special counsel, but rather the White House special counsel position that everyone is talking about. Just as the Attorney General appoints a special counsel, the president can appoint a White House special counsel. According to Newsweek, White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany declined to comment on whether a senior White House official had blocked Powell's access to the White House. In the view of White House officials, the lawsuit filed by Powell's lawyer has been dismissed by the courts, and she has been portrayed in the media as a conspiracy theorist who is unsuitable for the role of special counsel, which requires a neutral stance and can be easily targeted by opponents. In addition, they cited the possibility that President Trump could lose the support of some members of Congress in the coming weeks if Powell is appointed as special counsel. They also said that support of representatives would help Trump bounce back in the Electoral College certification in a few weeks. General Flynn also tweeted that he thinks the best choice for special counsel is Attorney Powell because she will tell the truth that will scare everyone. Earlier, Patrick Byrne, a friend of Trump and founder of e-commerce giant Overstock, who attended the December 18th White House meeting, bluntly pointed out after the meeting that President Trump has a group of officials around him who want Trump to admit failure, describing Trump as having a snake wrapped around his waist. There is an analysis that many people around Trump want to put Trump in a lonely position. They are tempted by someone. If they can get Trump to concede on January 20th and leave the White House, they all have high-paying jobs waiting for them in the future. At the meeting on Friday, they told the president, "You can't do this, you can't do that. It's all deception." Poll: Voters hate socialism and dislike AOC. A new poll conducted by the Heartland Institute, a public think tank, and Rasmussen Reports, a polling organization, shows that nearly 60% of the public has an unfavorable impression of progressive New York State Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and 75% of the public wants nothing to do with the socialism she preaches. The poll surveyed 1,000 U.S. voters, and one of the questions asked was whether the free market economy or socialism was better. 75% of likely voters chose capitalism, while 11% backed socialism, according to the Heartland Institute/Rasmussen poll. About 1 in 5 U.S. voters surveyed between the ages of 18 and 39 chose socialism, although support for a free market economy has increased from 59% of young American voters in 2019 to 68% this year. Another interesting survey was conducted on one of America's most prominent socialists, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. A majority of American voters have a negative view of her. When asked, "What do you think of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?" respondents were given these options: very favorable, somewhat unfavorable, or very unfavorable. Only 18% of U.S. voters responded very favorable, while 19% said somewhat favorable. In contrast, 38% of US voters say they have a very unfavorable impression of AOC, while 20% say they have a somewhat unfavorable impression of AOC. About 15% said they were not sure. In a statement, the Heartland Institute said that despite the countless calls for more socialism among elites in media and Hollywood, Americans aren't interested in adopting the same socialist policies that have led to mass poverty wherever they have been tried. Thank you for joining us today on Headline News, and we'll see you next time.